Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I got a reader mail that is it's reasonable. I'm gonna assume this is on the level. Every now and then, people do mail me, and it's like you've heard before. It's like the question of like, do you like Gail Simone? These are pointless mails. We're not sixth grade teenagers. So it is a lot of questions are bait. They're trying to get a different answer out of you. But this question I think is not. I think it's legitimate, and basically it goes this way. Hey Perch, why shouldn't I be angry? Why shouldn't I be furious? I'm tired of playing cutesy with this company that I've given thousands of my dollars to, that I've collected comics for, and I have to watch them ruining the characters I grew up with. Why shouldn't I be angry? Of course I'm angry. Why aren't you, meaning me, more angry? Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about that. First off, yeah, I mean, the thing is, when I do these videos and I talk about here's some things to try, here's some things to do, it gets labeled as fence sitting by, well, idiots, but by people who, really aren't listening to what's being said. It's reasonable to be angry. It's completely reasonable to be angry. I'm angry about things. I'm angry about titles that get canceled. I'm angry about characters that get altered and changed beyond recognition. I'm angry about a lot of things. I mean, that's my secret. I'm always angry. Marvel owns that trademark too. I'm angry about that. No, you have Chris Claremont. You keep him on the shelf for years, paying him, and you don't have him doing stuff. That makes me angry. You reboot the title constantly as a cheap gimmick of marketing. That makes me angry. You take characters that clearly are not getting over with fans, not getting popular. Customers are not buying those books. Statistically, I do those comics numbers videos. The facts are there. And yet there's this alternate reality that gets presented of these characters are the most popular things that Marvel has going. And if you deny that, you're wrong. But the facts are right there. I hate it when somebody tells me what to do. And that's part of why, by the way, when I do these videos about how I'm sick of certain terms and other things, a lot of it's because I get people who show up who tell me I have to be mad about things, or tell me I'm supposed to use this. And if I don't, I'm some kind of pussy who's, basically violating comics. No, I'm angry about all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, that anger needs to go somewhere for me. I can't just sit here and be angry. I can't just go, well, I'm pissed, so I'm gonna go on social media and say I'm pissed over and over and over again. What good is that? I think if you're angry about the direction of Marvel, here's the hard truth. They own those characters, not me, not you, not the people who have been investing into it for decades. Yes, you said you've spent thousands of dollars. I've spent thousands of dollars. A lot of people have spent thousands of dollars. Uh, Take this experiment for yourself. You have some long boxes sitting around your house somewhere. Go through there, count them all up, multiply it out. You might be shocked how much money you have spent. There's a large, not a large person, a large comic collector, somebody who has a lot of long boxes. And we were talking, and I'm like, I'll bet you bought several cars in what you have in your boxes. They're like, no, it hasn't added up to that. I'm like, no, just by cover value alone, I'll bet you bought a Tesla. And sure enough, he goes in there and he starts counting it up, and he's like, I've bought two Teslas in cost. Now I think he was counting some back issue, but I'm like, you've spent a lot of money on comics. If you've spent a lot of money and invested that cash and that time into characters, and then you have to sit back and you have to watch what feels like a complete disregard for that time and money, it sucks, and it makes you angry. Makes me angry. Anybody would feel angry about that. However, they're not ours. It's somebody else's company. It's somebody else's stuff. And at the end of the day, that's the uncomfortable truth, the hard part about investing kind of your time and your heart or whatever it happens to be into somebody else's material, whether it's movies, music, comics. It can feel like a betrayal. Comics, I think, has the potential, and this is one area where I've had this conversation with comic creators and people who work in comics, and I like, you got to understand, because many of these comic creators do not get the anger. It's just comics, they might say. Well, comics, more than movies, more than music, has different forms of investment, psychological investment. You buy the comic, it's cash. You read the comic, it's time. You remember things in the comic because the comic is coming out serially every month, and in many cases, every month for decades. I mean, there is no TV show that has been running as long as Spider-Man, as Batman. These titles have been on the shelves now for forever. Not forever, literally, but for a very, very long time, longer than other forms of entertainment. So, both by time, by money, by kind of mental investment, comic books are very much a partnership with you, the reader, and the creator. You invest emotion, you invest life into these characters, and the companies profit off that. That they have their business model. They run it this way for a reason. They have monthly comics, because they know. I mean, the reason why they're still churning out comics and printing them is because it is a good business. I know all the talk about the business is failing and imploding and everything else, but it still generates a lot of wealth. Not enough. Completely agree. Not enough. Not as much as it should. Absolutely agree. Walking away from the newsstand absolutely took money out of people's pockets. Completely true. However, it's still generating a lot of cash, and it generates it monthly. There's a reason why Amazon and Substack and all these others are trying to do things with comics. Is because they believe in the business, because the business principles are sound. The execution against those principles is a different story. But when you have that kind of attachment and that time of investment from a consumer of a product, then yeah, people are going to be pissed when you make changes. It's less the changes, I think, for me anyway, speaking for myself. The things that make me angry about comics is not when somebody changes something. In many cases, I like change. I like experiments. I'm very forgiving when a comic does something completely different with a character because I'm interested to see where it goes. There's an opportunity for something new I wasn't expecting. However, very quickly, it can become clear that the people making the change do not know what they're doing. And they're treating all of these things with complete disregard. That sucks. It sucks. But they're not ours. So what do you do with that anger? What do you do with that rage? What do you do with that frustration? That this is up to you as an individual. You have to make that choice. Nobody can make it for you. Nobody can tell you what to do with it. But by way of advice, I put on Dad Perch cap. Funnel that time and that money into something else. Make your own comic. Or if you have no interest in making your own comic or ability or whatever it happens to be, find somebody you trust, you like, who scratches that itch for you, gives you what you need, and invest your time into them. That's basically, if you have a choice between sitting and being angry or moving on and putting all that energy into something productive that actually makes you happy, pick the second option. The thing that worries me, and it is, yes, this is the reason why I get irritated, and I've heard the counter arguments about SJW as a term or woke or all the rest of that stuff, is that for me, there's not an output. It's just being angry about something. And in a lot of cases, it feels like there are people, I think there are lots of crazy people on Twitter who they found that they love anger. That the thing that makes them most excited and the thing that gets them through the day is being mad. That's what, look at the rage people who every single day will wake up to scream about the people not wearing masks. At some point, you might think they would just, have a good supply of masks, pledge to wear them, talk to their friends and close family and get everybody on board with a mask plan, and then isolate themselves from these crazy maskless people. You would think that would be what they would do for their own survival. But instead, you have people who go on. I mean, there's people who go on Twitter not once a day, but multiple times an hour to berate, scream, and just shout about people not wearing masks. What? For why? Who's listening? Who's being? I mean, are you trying to convince people? You're convincing nobody. Are you trying to make it? Do you have Unfortunately, it comes down to this: you have such a tiny dick that you have to just constantly yell at people who you feel are dumb. Like what do you get out of that? That's my honest question. What are you getting out of this anger? And I guess that's my response to the mail. To me, just anger is purposeless. It doesn't mean anything. You have to channel that into something productive. You have to take that anger and you have to make something out of it. Just being angry doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the world around you. It's unproductive. So for me, just staying angry is useless. It's That's my take. So that's when you say what do you do if you see these things you love being destroyed? As painful as it is, you divorce yourself from the things that are causing you pain. You remove yourself from the situation. Unless you believe there is a strategy, unless you have a magical way, and I would love to hear it. Write me if you have this strategy. If you have a way to get change going if you're pissed at Marvel because of what they've been changing, and you have an in, you're friends with Ike Perlmutter. I don't know what you're Kevin Feige's your uncle. You have a way of making it better. Then by all means, then absolutely direct that rage, get something fixed. But just being angry alone, um, I, what do you do with that? I don't know. Again, some people are addicted to anger. Some people, when you say what makes you happy, being angry is what makes them happy. And if that's the world you live in, then that's what you picked. Okay, I find that extremely foreign and frankly scary. But I think that this whole thing around comics gets very complicated. We start tossing in other things. We start tossing in political ideology. We start tossing in behavior on Twitter. We start tossing in all these other elements. We get very convoluted. And at the end of the day, it's somewhat simple. Look, most of the parts of this are very understandable. You have a property, you have characters, you have stories, you have comics that people have invested decades, in some cases, of their lives into, financially, time, emotion, everything else. You then take those properties, those characters, you warp them, you change them, and in many cases, you do so almost laughing. There's been people who have laughed about, haha, look at me, I'm destroying comics. It's not funny to somebody who put a lot of investment into something and then to feel like they're getting mocked. Now, again, not everybody has to walk around like a complete gentleman or whatever, but we can't be surprised when we make these radical changes to comics and then people are upset. That's just disingenuous. We also can't turn around and point the finger and go, well, the fact that you're upset is because of these, X, Y, and Z names that I'm going to call you. Again, that's disingenuous. Creators know when they're making radical changes to characters. Companies know. They know because they promote it. They put a new #1 on it. They say a shocking new turn. You won't believe what's happening here. They know they're trying to shock you. They know they're doing something controversial, different, shocking. They advertise it that way. They know exactly what they're doing. So to then turn around and be shocked when the fan reaction is negative, or to respond to that negative reaction by claiming all the fans are idiots, wrong, hateful, bigot, Nazi, whatever it happens to be, whatever term you want to throw out, it's disingenuous. You made a change. It didn't take your options as a publisher to keep going or reverse course. But if you keep going, people are going to continue to be mad. If you reverse course, they may get happier. They may not. That's their part of the bargain. They own these characters. They own the profits. They own the money. They own the control. So with that control comes great responsibility. It comes back to Spider-Man. For the rest of us, look, I sympathize with the person who wrote me the mail. Thank you. I get it. I get that you're angry. No part of anything I've said is that you shouldn't be angry. I think for your own sanity and health, you should try and find things that don't make you angry. But none of this is irrational. It's just we got to do something with it. Doing something with it can't just be mad all the time. Go find something that fits you and support it. It's the best thing you can do. And it's painful. It's hard to walk away from some of these characters that we grew up with, but it is what it is. Anyway, there you go. Thanks for the mail. Hopefully it was on the level. Who knows? But just try and be happy. There you go.